So let's at least share with these guys what was our PI experience at IIM Kozhikode. So starting with that, guys, when I was just about to give my interview at IIM Kozhikode, it was just quite a chill round. But how it actually moved forward, it started with a case. Then it just went past through my 3 years of work of running my own firm, then closing that firm, shifting to private equity for some time. Post which the conversation all over shifted to some technical stuff like bitcoins, blockchain, because that was part of my interest. And after that, it was quite a bit very casual conversation. Like it moved like, okay, you are a chartered accountant, so how are you going to file our returns? So why do you think that salaried people pay more taxes compared to business professionals? So how my experience was, like, it was not a kind of a very exam kind of interview, not kind of specific to that, but it was very in general, like how I am going to answer the questions on spot, what my point of view is that, and how much I really know about Kerala and Kozhikode and what's happening around that. So with IIM Kozhikode, it is very specific that you should be aware of what the current affairs are happening there. It was election time, I guess, during that time. So what's happening at that moment and how do you move forward with that? So over to you again, Varnika.
All right, so it's going to be a long answer because my interview lasted as long as 45 minutes. So, since I'm a computer science engineer, but I worked in a foreign exchange for JPMC. So, and luckily or unluckily, the professor, the interviewer was also a finance professor. So they quite drilled me on the fact that I come from forex, even though I did not have much of exposure to the functional side of it. But they asked basic questions about what are the economics that dominate the foreign exchange market, what are the current rates that go about it, basic trivia about what I'm working in. So also they asked me basic knowledge about the state I come from, the state I'm going to go if I join Kozhikode, and basic GK knowledge. So even though I was very much aware with the current affairs, political state of affairs, but I was not so strong at the static part of it. And they asked me 2-3 questions on the static data and figures. So they caught me off guard there. And then they moved on to the technology part of it. So they asked about blockchain, the trends in the fintech industry, and how do you actually implement blockchain. So they got into the technicalities of it. They asked me to write a little code as well, but since I come from a industry, so that is something least expected out of me. And then they moved on. So it was a very casual conversation. Making the conversation really smooth and entertaining. So at first I was really nervous, but then I understood the temper, and I realized that it might be fine to joke around. It might help you in easing out the environment. And then there's obviously the as I think everybody here would agree, the YMBA question. So it's not just a straightforward YMBA. So they would wrap it in layers and layers and layers, and will dig deeper into it, two to three layers, before you get very clear in your mind before answering that question. And I would recommend having that prepared well beforehand. So also then they move forward to some HR questions like short-term and long-term goals. What have you learned from your work experience? What are your HR learnings? What different kind of projects you did, and how did you add to the team? So I think many of these important questions we'll be referring to in the later segment of the video. So moving forward to Aniket.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, on the line of Varnika, my interview also around 30-35 minutes. So basically, so basically there are two people in the panel, and one guy was from the OBHR domain, and another guy was from the IT. And so like, because I was IT background people, so they asked me a lot of case studies. And again, as Varnika said, that your YMB answer. So my YMB answer was revolved around the product management. So they wanted to know whether I was aware of those product management fact or not. So around 2 cases were asked to me on that, and whether I have that knowledge of product management or not. Then few accounts question about the DBMS and data structure, and then a very lot of grilling on my work, like what work I'm doing, what things can be improved in that, and like what is in my contribution, because I had a 3 years of work experience. So they were expecting me to know a lot more about it. And when then they ask more about on the current affairs also, like the farm law that are going on and the budget. So what are my views and opinions on that, and how I am dealing with those news. So they wanted to know about it a little bit about static GK, and a few questions are on the HR ground, like strength and weakness and my long term and short term goals. And yeah, so the person are very welcoming, so they will very chill, so they're not here to grill you basically, but yeah, if it depend on what you give an answers to the questions, correct. And also my next round of interview with OBHR guy went on a very different domain, whether I believe in God or not, and like if I want to choose between my girlfriend and my mother, how whom I'll choose, and what is my thinking about it. So and if in any position of time in my life in the last 25 years I have taken a stand for someone or not, and what have I done in that. So they wanted to know more about me, so it's a very comprehensive interview for 35 minutes. So yeah, it was so basically that was all about it. Passing on to Asta.
Yeah, thank you. So my interview was also very chill. It started with my introduction, obviously, like tell me about yourself question. And the first thing one of the professors asked me was, why do you want to do MBA after CA? So they wanted me to bridge the gap between CA and MBA, and what are your goals? So I really want to do MBA after doing a comprehensive degree as CA. So I told them that I'm interested in learning about industry, how the business world work, and I really wanted to learn about the holistic view of industry. And I'm really very genuinely interested in it. And I have a habit of reading a lot about what is happening in the business world. So 70 to 80% of my interview was revolving around this thing only, like industries, business world. It started with question about the competitors of my previous organization, some relevant figures they asked me, like the sales figures, EBITDA margin, and PET figures, like how is my previous organization stands apart from its competitors, the future prospects of the industry, and how COVID has really impacted the FMCG sector, and new practices which are being followed in the FMCG industry. Then in the new practices answer, I somewhere mentioned about omni-channel presence. So the next question was related to the collaboration of big brands such as Tata with aggregators and delivery partners. Then somehow related to this only, the conversation moved to the Flipkart and Walmart deal. And I mentioned some relevant figures like the stake which was purchased by Walmart and Flipkart, and the reason behind this purchase, and why such a big retailer like Walmart would go to purchase stake in a e-commerce player. And they were more interested in my opinions on it. Then we discussed some other M&A deals as well. And there were some HR questions as well, like why do you think you are a leader? Tell me about your weaknesses and strengths. Then some few questions related to academics, some finance and economics related questions, because I come from that background only. And in the end, they asked me what all calls I have and what will be my order of preference. And basically, there is no fixed pattern of the interview. The questions, I believe, stem from one another. Sometimes interviews can be very random, but also make sure you prepare well on the areas of your expertise and interest. If you are saying your interest in a particular area, it should be reflected in your answers. Over to you, Anusha.
Yeah, thank you, Asta. So my interview also lasted around 25 minutes. There were two people in my panel. It started on a light note with an HR question stating that why should we select you? Give us two reasons. So one of the reasons I gave was related to my work, that I have worked in data science for 3.5 years, and that is a very niche skill. As people are learning, but still, since I had worked hands-on, so that was one of the reasons which they really liked. Second reason, I said that I'm good at communication, I believe, but they said that most of the people that they're interviewing might be good at communication, so tell them something else. So after that, I told them something from my professional life, but so there was an incident which took place in my office, and then I had to work while on the bed and study for CAT also. So that was something, a story which is very close to me, and I told them, and that is something which they really liked. Now, out of that story, they picked up something where I said that we should not give up and try very hard for everything. So they just asked me, do you believe that we should never give up or something like that? So it went into that direction. After that, for that, I just answered saying that it depends upon the circumstances and what is the exact situation on which this is based. After that, they started asking me some work experience questions about AI and ML, what is standard deviation, what is Six Sigma. They also asked me that will people lose jobs? Are people becoming stupid with robots? So I gave examples of Barack Obama. I've given very comprehensive speeches on this topic. So if anybody is going from data science background, or nowadays AI is anyway spreading, so people can go through their videos of Barack Obama, Stephen Hawking, different people, and then just mention it somewhere in the interview. It just shows that you are listening to these people and reading otherwise also, except the current affairs, just for the interview. That was there. They asked me some questions on my work. After that, in the IIMK form, I had mentioned that I had done a marketing internship also. So ma'am asked me about how, what my learning was, and if I had done a marketing internship after engineering, and then I went to data science, then MBA. So how does this all connect? So I gave them a good story that marketing is not something which is just to sell products to people or something like that. Even I am selling myself to the panelists at that time. That is something that I said, which they really liked. Then there were some HR questions on why should we take you, why MBA, and all of that. That was that. And in the end, so I had mentioned somewhere in my introduction that I like to draw cartoons. So in the end, I also showed them the cartoons. I had made a collage of all the cartoons in one place, in one picture, and showed them, which ma'am really liked. So if you have something, any art which you can show, even if it is singing, dancing, anything, if you perform that time itself, just get over that fear and that shyness. If you perform that time itself, it's a straight brownie point. And I had prepared myself in any interview. If they asked me to draw the a funny way or anything like that, if that happens, so whatever hobby you are seeing, a question might stem from that also, and you might be asked to do that. So that is something you can work on. That's all.
That's great, guys. I guess we all can vouch for it that the interviews were quite comprehensive, and they even went beyond the things we have mentioned in our forms. So now let's get to the heart of the conversation. So before that, I guess we have one question already. So Aniket, like I guess it's from your background. So the question is, why do you want to do MBA after engineering?
Yeah, so basically there are two aspects to it. So if you see, suppose you are coming from an WorkX guy, so you have to relate it like in the past whatever you have done, and you have to so for every answer in MBA you have to come up with a story. So you frame a story like that whatever the work you have done in the past and some PORs that you have in your college, how it relates and how it intrigues you to an MBA. So you should be knowing. Now for me it was like I was interested toward product management, so I frame a story like that I am interested in product management, and so I wanted to go into that. And there is a gap between right now. So if I'm in a tech background, so I am doing the things that are not more involved with a customer centric route. So that's how I frame the answer, that the gap that is there currently, that will be filled by the MBA. And the things like peer-to-peer learning or networking opportunities, different case studies, the summer internship that you're going to do, this is how you can frame the answer for the engineering. And for example, if you're a fresher, I think then it is more like you have to relate to your PORs and the college activity that if you're done. So this is how I think you can relate to after engineering. I think Varnika or Anusha, if they want to add more.
I think like adding one point there, we can say that engineering also gives us a very structured thought process, and that is something which can be useful in MBA and later in our professional lives as well. So those kind of aspects also we can mention, which are not really there on the CV, but has helped us from engineering. Engineering is not just the technical subject, it's a 4 years course with a lot of different things. So we should pick out the strengths that we gained from there, as Aniket said. any fest or anything that you had organized. Pick those things and focus on that.
That's a good thing. That's thank you, guys. So let's move forward. So guys, we have a question like, how can we prepare our SOP? So when you are preparing your statement of purpose, what points you need to take care of? So what I think is, when you are writing a SOP, what you need to do is you need to connect your personality and your requirement and what MBA is going to add to that. And it's like what MBA is going to add to your personality, plus how are you actually going to capitalize on that forms part of your statement of purpose. They should, when one who is reading your SOP should really understand the intent behind that why I'm in need of that, and what points I consider are important, what I will learn from an MBA. And plus one thing which I think you really need to focus on is how I am going to add to your personality, how I am going to add value to IIM Kozhikode, how I am going to add value to the learning process, how I am going to useful for the peer-to-peer learning. This all forms part of the SOP. Anyone? So Varnika, do you want to help us with this? Like how to prepare the SOP? Anyone? Aniket, do you want to help us?
Yeah. So I go ahead. So basically, like adding to what Pranav had said, so your SOPs should tell the story about you. So what? So there, you got only 300 to 600 words for your SOP. So it should be more like telling the story about you, from what have you done in the past, and what to do, basically what you're doing right now, and what you want to do in the future, and how that MBA and that institute is going to help you. So suppose, for example, you're writing an SOP for IIMK or IIMB. So it is like you should try to tell the values and learnings of the IIMB and IIMK in that SOP, that how those things will help you out in your future. And but it should not be very disruptive, but it should be come in a very continuous way, from your past, in your present, and then it should continue to the future. This is how your SOP should tell your story, I think. Yeah, I think.
So for me, I would say the first and the most important thing is never to copy your SOP. It should be really very unique to you. You can start by reading some simple SOPs which are available on Google, with which you'll get some idea like how to frame it. Sit and think about major events in your life, your major academic achievements, your work life, about your previous organization, and how you contributed to your work organization. And all in all, how these events have shaped you as a person. Your SOP is the first point for the interviewers to know who you are as a person. Also, I believe that 60 to 80% of your interview revolves around your SOP only. So make sure you include only those things with which you are very sure about, and only the genuine and honest things. And create a number of versions of your SOP, get them vetted by different people from the same background, from different backgrounds as well. Also, I would like to give a suggestion here. You can also reach out to people from the same institute to check it for you. Leverage the platforms which are available to you, like LinkedIn. Uh, you can just leave them a text and they'll be happy to edit for you. You can ask them for some suggestions, like how to go about it. You will get very good help in it. Also, interviewers will generally pick a point from the SOP to start the conversation. So make sure you know in detail everything mentioned in your SOP. Yeah.
I just want to add one point, like my peers have added a lot of points already. So when you start making a SOP, it might seem very daunting and complicated how to cover your entire life story in 500 or 700 words. So what I and friends had done was, we wrote everything that we had done in our lives, starting 4 or 5 till the time we were giving the interviews. So everything in our professional lives and the incidents which impacted our personal lives also, we wrote it in a chronological order in one sheet itself. And I used to just look at it for 1 or 2, just see that if I am the interviewer, what are the points, what are the major highlighting points which I can tell to somebody, which can be useful. So that can be starting point. trying to prepare a SOP. The rest of the points are covered.
Oh. Okay, we have one question here. It's like, what should be the strategy for people with work ex less than 1 year? So anyone like Anusha, Aniket, Astha, anyone wants to take up this? Varnika, do you want to help us with this?
Can you please repeat the question
Yeah,
once?
it's like, what should be the strategy or plan for people with less than 1 year of work ex?
So I think that it's a very right time. So you can any day tell about how these 6 months or 8 months of your work experience has been, and what have this experience changed your perspective about corporate. So they very well understand that you are a newbie to the corporate. That is why you have a very fresh perspective, and there's something very different from college. So you can always share how these 8 months have made you understand that you need further refinement before actually getting to a corporate, and that is why you want to pursue an MBA and have a better understanding at it, so that you have the a little understanding of the actual culture as well, so that when they talk about it in the classes, you have some previous understanding of it, while at the same time you have enough scope to learn new things before venturing into the corporate again.
Anyone want to add something?
Yeah, just a small point. Like for freshers or who have people who have less than 1 year of work ex, your interview will mostly revolve around your academics only. Suppose you were into academics, your college life was for 4 years, and you can expect a question from a subject which you studied in year one. You can expect a question from class 10 books also. So for you guys, most of the questions will be getting from your academics only. So I would suggest you prepare some of the subjects which are very favorite to you and try going through your notes again. Try preparing for the academics as much as possible. Also, one more thing that I've noted is for people who have less work ex, they are asked current affairs also. So you can prepare current affairs also. Obviously, there will be some questions on work ex, but majorly it will be around academics and current affairs.
Guys, let's move on to the first question, I guess, which we all will be asked or were asked in the interviews. Like, tell me something about yourself. So, how my opinion was like when I was asked this question, I felt that it was the question just to comfort me down, just to make me okay that yes, I am there for the interview. And how I answered this question is, I started my entire journey, right, from my acads, my different professional qualifications, my work ex, and what different kinds of work ex I had. Plus, something which I add differently is I gave a pinch of something like that. This is something which I believe in. So what my exact words were, I actually believe in a code that if it can be thought, it can be done. So that's what something which was a part of my tell me something about yourself. And post which it was something that how I spend my leisure time. Like the answer was like, okay, if you can find me, if I am free, you can always find me to the nearest mountain because I love to trek. So apart from this introduction, work ex and these part, this is something which actually made me comfortable and also a bit of smile on the interview panel that yes, I am okay with telling something about myself. So yeah, Varnika, over to you.
So I always ignore the entire work ex and academics part, because I think they already have it on our application form. So there's no need to reiterate it and bore them with the figures. So what I start with is how I was as a person when I was in school, then how I evolved during my college time. So I personally consider the college period as a very transformational experience for myself. So I made sure that the interviewer knows this about me, that over the time I have not remained the same person that I was, and that I have evolved and tried to change and update myself with the times. So I always follow this approach of going stage by stage. So I first talked about how I was in the school, then when I moved to the college, then the 4 years of college, which activities I took part in, what was the rationale behind all the decisions that I have taken in my life, be it going on the stage for the first time, or be it actually applying for an internship and then bagging one. So I believe that even though you stated out very clearly that you have interned at XYZ, the interviewer never gets to know the part that what made you intern there or what made you choose a particular course in life. So it's very important to highlight your decision and rationale when you take a particular path and career. So I go like this, and then at the end of it, I tell them that I have been very grateful for the choices I've made in my life because one way or the other, that have put me in front of you today. So that is how I finish it.
Yeah, so like adding to it a few more important things that I think about telling about yourself, that you should start so basically you're telling about yourself should not be more than 90 seconds first of all, because no interview is going to listen it for more than that, because they are hearing it from morning to evening. So you're telling about yourself, it should be very unique first of all. Second, you should frame at least 2 to 3 version of your tell me about yourself. So say it's about 90 seconds, then one version should be about 60 and something about 30 to 5 seconds. So if someone say that, okay, just give me an overview or tell me something which is not in your CV, so you should be brave with those answers. And after that, I think tell me about yourself, when it is asked, it gives you a point where you can drive the whole interview. So you can tell those points which is very strong on your section, and you should not tell the whole story. Now, suppose if I'm saying that I love dramatics, so I should stop there. I should not be saying that what I have done in the past or how I have done that, because I want interviewer to ask me those questions on the dramatics part. So always clean up those points and basically leave those hookups there so that interviewers can try to answer that. And it should be very interesting and exciting. It should not be very boring. So as Vanika said, that your 10th, 12th marks and everything, they know. It is already in the form. So knowing again, saying again and iterating again and wasting your 90 seconds on that, it is of no use. Rather than that, say something which is not in the form. And if you are from workplace, try to tell about your contribution, about your recognition, what have you achieved in your company, and something about your hobbies, about in the college, what have you done, about your PRs. So these are the things you should include in your tell me about yourself, and you should prepare this answer beforehand. And but saying that preparing answer should not be something look like that you have remembered it and then you are saying at that point of time. So these things you should keep in mind for tell me about yourself.
I really believe that around 90% of my interviews started with this question only, and all the further questions stemmed from this question only. So make sure you give sufficient time when you're framing this question. I would suggest that you frame an answer to this question, but have different versions of it. Like as Aniket mentioned, like 90 seconds, then 60 seconds, as per the mood of interviewer. If he's not in mood of listening to a long introduction, you can just shorten it. Also mention only those things you are very sure about and you have sufficient knowledge about. Then make sure you include who you are today, where you want to go, and how MBA will help you in bridging that gap, and or how it will help you in achieving it. This is basically your why MBA answer. Okay, you should definitely include in your tell me about yourself answer. For example, uh, what answer I gave: I am a CA today. I want to do MBA. So now I try to bridge that gap in tell me about yourself answer. If you read online, you will find multiple answers to this question. Some will talk about their background, some will talk about their work ex, and so you write what is significant to you. Some people talk about their family backgrounds also. So you should not copy anything, but just write with what is unique to you. Okay. One more thing, that they only know what you have told them in your SOP, in your tell me about yourself answer. So the question will stem from your answers only. Okay. As in my IIMK interview, my interview largely revolved around major happenings in the industry and business world, because in my tell me about yourself answer, I told them about my interest. Right. If you tell them I'm doing MBA to learn, let's say investment banking, they will expect you to know something about it. You cannot just say that I'm doing MBA because I'm interested in this field and I'll learn it later. You have to show your interest in that field beforehand. If you're saying consulting, you should know not the cases, basically not how to do a guess estimates, but you should have some idea about that. So the idea here is to mention only the genuine things about yourself, and because they expect you to know about it in and out?
How I went about the process of framing the answer about yourself was that first I had written my SOP for IIM Shillong, which was around 700 words. And after that, from that SOP itself, I had for tell me about yourself. And another thing was that, as Aniket and Astha have mentioned, so don't mention the points which you don't want them to ask. So academics was something which I had not studied for 3.5 years because I was working. So while telling them about my college, I didn't mention electronic communication, and I straight jumped to the activities that I had done in college, like dramatics and other. And I think that worked also because only in one interview they focused on my academic. My interviews were just on work experience, hobbies, and other general current affairs. So don't mention that. And it's like a brownie question. You have to practice this a lot. It should not look remembered, but at the same time, this should be something which even in your sleep, if I ask you, tell me about yourself, you should be able to answer that. Just practice it with your mother, friends, everybody, and this should be just very very intuitive to you. And also don't make your answer cliche, like we are giving a lot of points, but it sound like something very cliche, A to B to C. It should be very personalized to you, and it should be something which, just if I'm not interested and if I'm just doing my own work, if even if the interviewer is focused somewhere else, you say something like that, that they start listening to you and they get interested in you. So keep those points and nitty-gritties here and there in your tell me about yourself, so that you can drive the rest of your interview. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. In the end, guys, you have to introduce yourself. So it should be very personal to you what you are saying. So let's get to the second most important question again. So why MBA? So when I was actually asked this question, my answer was, so I can just give you the crux. My answer was like, I have spent a lot of time doing finance, audit, taxation. And for me, just to be an entrepreneur, just to enter the business world, there are a lot of things you need to understand about. There are a lot of things you need to really learn, that how a business works, and that's why MBA was gonna be beneficial for me. Plus, it's like, yeah, as we have mentioned before, the peer-to-peer learning. In the end, it's like, apart from the classes and all, how teacher explains, it's how you learn from your friends, how you learn from different students. That's what MBA is gonna add to my personality. And apart from it, it's going to help me refine my knowledge. So this was the entire crux of my answer of why I want to get into an MBA after 3 years of work ex with different professional qualification, and that's how I rolled the bat. So Varnika, anything you want to add here?
So there are four things which I think more or less everybody might have listed out in their answer. So that would be best faculty, the best college, the peer network, and that MBA degree. So I would say that try to make it a little personal and based on your experience. Again, the rationale that made you do an MBA. So if you're a fresher, you can always tell about how your graduation has shaped you, has made you understand about being a part of different fest, has made you understand how businesses are conducted, how finances are handled, and that is why you want to explore it further before actually starting out on a new venture. And if you come from a work experience, you can always have a story to relate to. You can tell about how in your role and position it was very limited to this aspect, and you have seen other people working in within the organization. You have interacted with the product managers, you have interacted with the finance guys, and you have piqued the interest into their work. So this way you can always personalize the story, and then obviously add all of it, the peer network thing, but in a very subtle way, because at the end of the day it is what everybody says. So they also, sometimes the interviewer is so pissed off, they directly tell it to your face, we know that you are here for the peer network, what else have you got? So try to have that list ready beforehand and try to have a personal story attached to it.
Yeah, so I think they've covered almost like get a personalized story and all everything. But don't say something like just for the sake of saying or being cool. Like if you say I want to go in finance, I want to be investment banker, so be ready to be questions asked on finance. So they here to take they are taking interviews from last 25 years, so they know finance more than you, so they will grill you for sure. So if you are saying marketing, if you are saying finance, if you're saying anything, be ready to be asked at least basic question, at least first level of question from you. Okay. And also never say that you are here to earn money or to get a very high paying job. You can't say that in YMBA answer. So these are the things that you should not be doing, at least for the sake of getting selected. And also never, so there will be point where they will ask you whether you love your company or not, whether the job that you're doing you're liking or not. So if you don't like that job, still you can't say that I don't like that job or I don't like my manager. You can say that okay, some issues or some conflicts are there, but it's like you can't defame anyone. Okay, so keep these things in mind apart from whatever Pranav and Vanika has added to the YMB answer.